Don Barber. Don is a lifelong area resident whose family has been here for generations. He will be talking about the responsibilities of individuals and communities in deciding about gas drilling and planning for our future.
All right, we're ready. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you all for making this evening's presentation a priority in your life and coming out to be here. Little introduction. I'm actually a farm kid. I grew up on a 300-acre farm in the town of Andy. We were part of an agrarian community where most neighbors milked small herds of cows. I do remember a community that cared for each other and came into the care of each other. We were quite poor in dollars, but we were quite wealthy in relationships, security, and compassion. I was the third generation on that farmstead, and our job was to work by and with the land to support our herd and then ourselves. After college, I worked for Corning Incorporated for 10 years as an engineer and earned a patent while there. However, I left them to start my own business to regain independence and freedom that I had experienced in my childhood on my family farm. And for those 30 years, I owned and operated a residential construction company that provided me the opportunity to be creative and earn integrity. 20 years ago, I was first elected to the Caroline Town Board, and I've been its supervisor for 16 years. I have come to appreciate the importance of protecting a fair, impartial, deliberative government process, and the importance of finding pathways for citizens to become part of the process. Everything was going along fairly smoothly until 2007 and 2008 when landmen came into our area. I currently own a 65-acre farm, so I was approached by them. Having been a contractor, I was fairly comfortable with the negotiation process before signing. I must admit that the signing bonus and the potential of royalty were enticing. But I was put off by the secrecy demanded, the dog and pony shows that were very common in our community, and the few $1,000s that they gave to local fire companies. There was something about the sales process that went against my grain as a person who practices business with integrity. I've also been a landlord, and I know that in the lease arrangement, the leasing pays to have use of your property. I was, and still am, very skeptical that I could ever develop a lease agreement that would bring parity to the relationship between me and a powerful corporation with a team of lawyers. I thought back to my grandfather, and how he would have worked, and how he had worked by and with this land. This whole proposition ran contrary to his stewardship. So I assumed, based on the gas industry's rhetoric and nothing countervailing, that the gas industry would soon be my neighbor. I knew that as a supervisor, I needed to see what was happening in Pennsylvania so I could help my community with this responsibility to understand the changes on the horizon and use them to build a stronger community. I attended a Cornell Cooperative Extension arranged all-day workshop in Towanda, PA, went with a number of colleagues to an operating well pad. We went to the local Chesapeake Energy office in Towanda, Pennsylvania. We drove through the Towanda community and had a panel discussion with local elected and appointed officials from that area. We learned about impacts to local businesses, both good and bad. Some effects on the labor market, as folks left their current jobs working for towns for higher paying jobs. This resulted in the jobs that they had either being unfilled or filled by applicants who were not as skilled as the ones that had just left. sat in a 1 mile long traffic jam in a hamlet that was just like Berkshire, with a huge number of trucks on both sides of us. I learned that EMT services used to take less than 10 minutes to receive attention, now took up to an hour, and often by a non-local provider. And I saw what was once beautiful flat farmland, now bare and covered with drilling process inventory called placement areas. I learned that the lack of housing had caused many poor families to be displaced, resulting in their children put into foster care. I also attended and facilitated several local government meetings with IOGA, which is the Independent Oil and Gas Alliance. I spent a day on a couple of dairy farms just outside of Sierra and took a guided tour to a good portion of the drilling sites and ancillary activities in Bradford County, right after the LaVroy well failure, when there was very little truck traffic so we could get around. I came quickly to understand the gas extraction industry was a complex industrial process, handling powerful chemicals on the surface to make a sick water mixture, and then putting this mixture underground in extremely high pressure to extract extremely flammable gas. Having worked in the industrial sector, doing farming and in the building trades, I knew that apparatus fail and that humans make errors. So the combination of powerful chemicals, high pressures, and flammable gas made me really uneasy to have this scattered about my community. There are process risks that our community would have to be exposed to that were beyond our control. The blind faith statement by landowners that their families have been stewards of the land for generations and they would not allow gas extraction to follow their land ran hollow to me. I knew that I had to know much more in order to make good decisions now that would either limit or increase the opportunities for my grandchildren. I learned that there are significant social and economic impacts that are not felt equally when the gas industry comes to town. I learned that the gas industry's efforts and desire to mitigate risk on the road path, but they have little opportunity to mitigate risks in the community and in your neighborhood. And I also pressed everyone I could talk to find ways that we could retain the community's wealth from gas in our local communities. So I looked for a number of resources on the impacts and risks associated with the extraction industry and specific impacts to the landscape, the community, and existing economy. And one of the first resources was the Tioga County resource by air drilling on Marcellus Shale. And the topics, if you haven't found this, are noise, lighting, roads, critical environmental areas, and public safety. And then Tompkins County had a community impact assessment done, and you can find this impact statement at the Tompkins County TCOG website. And the topics they did discuss are land, water, flora, fauna, air, agriculture, viewshed, tourism, transportation, and noise, public health, boomtown, jobs, community services, and community character. And finally, I was actually chair of the Tompkins County Council of Governments, called TCOG, and we are a gas drilling task force that include both elected officials, staff members, and citizens. And you can again find our work at this website. Just go to Tompkins County and TCOG and you'll be able to link to it. And we had groups that focused on these areas. We did a number of white papers and groundbreaking studies on land use, roads, water, assessment, and land value. We did a GIS map of the Tompkins County if gas drilling were allowed to take place based on the current SGIS, as well as studying public safety. So I'm not going to go through the litany of what the town of Caroline responded to this issue, but you can certainly ask questions later, because it turns out that Berkshire has to determine its own path. But I can share the process that the community could take to become proactive, to be strong, and to protect its values and assets for future generations. Community discussions like this one about the Berkshire future should always include introspection of defining who we are, what are our core values, and what is our vision for the future. This sharing of our stories, of our values, vision, and recognition of who we are is so critical to finding bridges to cross the divide between two diametrically opposed positions on gas growth. Stories like the one that I shared at the start of my talk about my past help you to know me better. Similar stories by you will help your neighbors and your community find commonalities. Thomas Jefferson said, whenever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government. And when things get so far wrong as to attract their notice, they may be relied on to set them right. First, I want to be clear that I'm not presupposing that there's anything wrong in Berkshire, but I am proposing that you can participate in government. It is critical when change is imminent that we become proactive and take the time to understand the many facets of that change. Someone much wiser than me once stated that we walk backwards into the future. We can only see where we've been. We can never know where we're going. But by looking backwards at our past, we can determine where we're going to put our next. And we actually have a golden opportunity to see that just south of us in Pennsylvania. We can actually see the steps, what would happen to us if we take exactly the same steps. And from my perspective, having been there, I saw little planning and preparation for the gas industry before it came to town. We can now see what happens if we don't watch out for ourselves. I know the independence and self-reliance of the character of the people of our rural communities is so strong, and being a victim is not how our forefathers would have reacted. I urge you to use the existing resources that I mentioned before and take the time to visit Pennsylvania communities to appreciate the change that you are poised to experience. This step is critical to making a plan and a pathway to a strong Berkshire community, whether gas filling is allowed or not. One thing I have been able to unearth from my readings and study about mineral extraction is that the extracted mineral is a finite material. So when the extraction is complete, there is still another change ahead of you. So as you come together as a community to discuss your values, vision, and defining who you are, don't overlook the longer-term vision of post-gas extraction and the social and economic structure you want to leave for your children. Government is actually a creation by the people. Our forefathers developed government to work for the common interest and the common good. Although there are many actions we can take that do not require government intervention, and many of us embrace that, local government can have a place in helping the community realize its vision and potential. When people ask us, do we live in a democracy, we say yes. In a democracy, majority wins, everybody votes. We actually live in a republic, and if you remember the Pledge of Allegiance, we pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands. In a republic, we elect representatives to do our work of government. But there is an interface between the two, and that is called elections. That's when democracy takes place, and then the republic takes over after that. So make sure that it's clear about that relationship. So just briefly, a local government, your town board would have 5 members, which means 3 people on the board need to vote in the affirmative for anything to happen. It's critical as you think through the politics of any actions that are being proposed. I'll actually require one town board member to move it and another to second. and then both of those steps are critical. Then there could be discussion or not, and then a vote or other parliamentary action such as a tabling. The town board actually does two functions. One is resolutions. Resolutions are binding on the town board, not binding on the citizens of the town, and they are can be amended on the spot. They can be rescinded. The very next motion, they're very flexible and fluid. The second opportunity or action of the town board is local laws. Local laws require a public hearing for the public to know what the law says, to be able to comment on that, and then the town board, by a majority vote, would adopt after it has had, or not, after it's had a public hearing on the local law. And I should say the local law are binding on the citizens. So hopefully you can read this slide, maybe take a brief second to read it. This is something new 3 years ago. And this slide talks about transparency of government, requiring that information is going to be at a meeting, including resolutions to the best of their ability, be made available to the public. And before the meeting, and any information that's being talked about at the board meeting be shared with the public. It's important that you understand this. If you want to be part of the government process, that you can be informed, you should be able to get the information you're looking for. Recognizing, of course, that resolutions can be modified on the floor, but the intentions, the agenda, need to be known ahead of time. And if you have concerns about this, I'll give you the name of the sheriff. His name is Robert Freeman. He's actually works for the Department of State. He's executive director of the Committee of Open Government. He is the guru on this topic, and he'd be more than happy to answer your questions if you on how you can become involved and know what's going on with your town board. So as citizens, you can demand and have democracy in a republic, because a republic has the supreme power resides in a body of citizens, and it resides in you through your ability to come and speak to the town board and to vote at election time. So in a republic, government is of, for, and by the people. Without proactive steps, Berkshire will become a victim of outside multinational interests. I hope by now you are aware that significant changes are near at hand. That change will not affect everyone the same. Some have rewards in cash and or jobs. Some have significant risks on property owners, the well pads, and those who work on the well pads have risks as well. Also those living along roads with high frequency truck traffic. Yet all will be impacted in profound ways. For those not receiving awards, this doesn't sound like a great deal. The challenge is to come together to articulate your values and your vision and a plan to protect both. No matter how tired you are after long hours of work, you must find the adrenaline and internal strength to engage now. Your town is approaching a crossroads. You'll have to take one path or the other. In our system of government, you can make a difference on what direction your community takes. The stakes are too high for our children and our grandchildren for us to be too tired. By participation, you can truly realize government that is of, for, and by the people. The people, in case you haven't figured out, is you. Not collective you, individual you. We are in this together. We must help each other. We must even help the town board to be successful.